School committee meeting is being broadcasted through local media outlets that are present. If anyone wishes to get a local or rebroadcast, please contact the school committee member or administration. Good evening. Tonight, we're going to start off, as usual, with the approval of minutes. I'm sure everyone had the chance to look over their minutes and everyone's good with what we got. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Motion by Joe, seconded by Megan. All in favor? Next on the agenda is announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Anybody got anything they'd like to come out with, or? No? All right.
I do.
Go for it.
I just want to remind everybody about our Hawk University next week, our first ever seminar, I guess Saturday seminar for parents, caretakers, and educators. We do have a keynote speaker now, Dr. Craig Murphy. He's going to talk about just transitioning for kids. We also have speakers that are going to talk about college and career readiness, homework skills, bully and peer relationships, and navigating social media, supporting important life skills, scholarship, financial aid information, transition in elementary school, transition from elementary to middle school, and educational technology. It should be a great event. It's going to be a free event. We'll have childcare. We'll also have translators there. So.
And this is next Saturday?
Next Saturday.
At what time?
From 9 to 12.
9 to 12 at?
Yes. Oh, sorry, at Woodland.
At Woodland.
Yeah.
Thank you, Craig. Anybody else? All right, I got a couple I'd like to get out there. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate the class of 2018 for graduating. Great class, no complaints with them. They really did outstanding job this year. Also to, it was a busy week the last couple of weeks, so give a shout out to all the seniors that won awards and everything at the Dick Corbin event. Shout out to the Special Olympics athletes. I know some of those guys were seniors, and that was I know some of us had a chance to go to that dinner. It's definitely something to go to. I don't think I'll miss those anymore. So good for them. Also, the Seniors Award night and the Senior night. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go to the Senior night. It's usually a good time. They put on a good show. There's one kid sang about toast, and it was
Fantastic.
actually hysterical. So kudos to him. I also want to let everyone know, too, that we do have some opportunities to start housing opportunities at Milford High School. These are going to be for exchange students that come in, correct?
Yes, yes.
So we're looking for people that want to help out and offer their house to these students. The start and end dates are between late August and June. There is a stipend, I believe it's $1,000 a month. So if you're interested and you want to help out, reach out to a school committee member or reach out to the administration on the website, and there's information out there for it. So that is that. Anybody else? All right, do we have invitation to speak next? Anyone want to come up and speak?
Hi, I'm Ryan Hazard. I'm the class 2019 president for the class, and I just wanted Mr. Altman sent me an email for a couple of things that he wanted to talk about. One of which was the how the nights went, senior night, Dick Corbin night, which Mr. Boucher couldn't be at Dick Corbin night, so Mr. Altman ran it, and I thought it was very successful, as well as senior night with the toast,
Yep.
the toast song, and all that. It was really fun, and they had a good time, and also softball and volleyball in the playoffs, which is softball's been dominating the past couple of years, but this is new for volleyball, and it's pretty exciting for them. And we had graduation Sunday, of course, and that went very well. And the last day for the seniors with the lip dub was shown on senior night, and it was very well appreciated. So
I stole your thunder, didn't I? I rifled all this stuff
a
up
little
before
bit,
you came out.
a little bit. That's really it. I mean,
Awesome.
got a couple fundraisers for the class 2019 too at JJ's this Friday, and this 2020 next week.
What time Friday?
6 to 10.
At JJ's?
Yep.
And they're at, where they at, Upton?
They're in Upton, up on
140.
140. Yeah.
140?
Yep.
All right, well, thank you, boss. Anybody have any questions? Wanna ask anything? No?
Is it your class doing the 5K, or is that the 2020 class?
That's the freshman class.
Okay.
2021 actually is doing it next Saturday.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Forward to next year, being seniors.
Oh yeah, it's nerve wracking, but it's exciting at the same time. It should be fun.
And are you working on Lift Up as well, or?
Yeah, I think our class is doing a lift up, I believe.
Good.
I think Malcolm's directing it.
Excellent.
So actually, I'm just going to shine a little light on Ryan because he didn't talk about himself much, but he's a scholar and a captain for the lacrosse team. He was just nominated this past week, and he's a pillar of the class and a role model. So he's a perfect example of the student athlete.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
You might come in here more often now, right?
Great.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, buddy.
Thank you very
Have a good
much.
night. Alright, next on the agenda, Eagle Scout Project Recognition. Wanna come up, my man?
Yeah, it's me. Just like,
Yep, just right there.
Have a seat.
so I have a little handout for you guys. There's a couple more of you than I anticipated, so.
We'll
share.
share. That's fine.
Thank you.
And I already have a copy, so I'm all set.
Thank you, sir.
Copy of this.
Oh, this is a new one. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, look at drainage.
Okay, so, I'm Patrick Franzo, I'm in the class 2018, Troop 18, Milford, best troop in Milford, side note. There's been a surprising amount of talk about the Toast skit at, senior night. He's actually from our troop, he's an Eagle Scout, so that's, pretty cool. So,
Very creative.
yeah.
Did you guys help him write the song?
No, that was all him. He actually took it from the summer camp he worked at, I believe.
That's awesome.
And he brought it to the masses. So, I did my Eagle project pretty recently. May 18th to 20th, I worked on it at Milford High School. It was a renovation of a trail in the back of Brookside. It's not like that concrete trail. That is like an okay trail. I focused on the dirt trail. It was in major disrepair. It looked like it was paved at some point, but that's kind of extinct at this point. It was really uneven. Makes it hard to walk at night. I know people ride their bikes and stuff back there, and that makes it hard to ride your bikes, obviously. It also floods in when it rains a certain part, so that's not exactly conducive to walking, right? Interesting thing about that, we figured out why it floods. We dug down 2 inches and hit solid rock, so that was why.
Yeah.
So I made some improvements. So rocks that we could move that weren't boulders, we took out of the trail and then filled it in with dirt to make it a little more even. We did a complete sweep of the trail for litter, and then we bordered like a 60-foot portion of the trail with plastic siding and then filled that all with gravel. So on there's a lot of pictures. The first page of pictures, that's kind of some before pictures. You can see the big puddle that forms when it rains. Note about that was about 24 hours afterwards in sunny weather, so the fact that that's still there isn't exactly great. Work began May 18th. We focused on just cleaning up at that point, getting it ready to put the gravel in, all that good stuff. You can see, I don't know if you know the Nagiras or the Cashins, they both go to the school. Those are them in that picture. Next, we kind of prepared the trail to be graveled. We dug trenches. That was actually my great dad over there's idea. We dug trenches to help with the water runoff. So that actually worked very well. I went out there after it rained and it was completely dry, or as dry as it can be after rainfall. And then once the gravel came, we could put that in, put the plastic siding in, and Milford Landscape Supply Depot on Dilla Street gave me all the gravel I needed for free. So that was very nice of them. That was very generous of them. And then we were able to bring it over with wheelbarrows, put it in. There's a picture, there's like 4 pictures on one of the slides. That's some kind of just a genesis of the trail and how it started versus how it ended. Last day of work was Sunday the 20th. that was mostly just we didn't do much that day, but it was still pretty important work. That was mostly just getting rocks out and filling it in with dirt again. So there's a statistics page on there. Everyone loves statistics, right? 136 total man hours from when the project was conceived to its finality. $245 were raised for the project, almost exclusively through just redeemable cans that people gave me. $200 were spent on the project to get gravel, the siding, tools. Used about 30 cubic feet of gravel. Most of that was given to me by Landscape Supply Depot for totally free again. Big props to them. I really enjoyed that. So that's pretty much the scope of the project. There's a thanks to there. Those are all the people that helped or had a part in it, and I really appreciated everyone's help on the project. I don't know if they're watching this, but
List them out, that might not be there.
oh yeah, is it like an audio thing? Is that why?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So thanks to the DeFranzo family, the Flannery family, the Probert family, and the Nagara family, Nathaniel Shubchak's family, the Cashin family, my project coach, Mr. Frangillo, and the Cabral family, and they just gave various things. They might have volunteered, some donated tools, some donated funds, some just helped advise me on the project. I also want to thank Dr. McIntyre and Mr. Piergustavo at the high school for helping me out. Their contributions and advice really made this project possible. I don't think I would have done it without them. Obviously, it's kind of their jurisdiction. I can't just work on public school land. I also worked with Mr. Brashani with the Parks Department to get permits and stuff like that. So, any questions for me?
This is impressive. I've got one question. What made you think of doing this? Do you take that path often, and you were just like, oh, what is this nonsense?
The irony is I've never used that path.
No.
So the
Never will.
Yeah. The project began as kind of making a couple updates to the concrete trail that goes around the soccer fields. That was gonna just kind of like put mile markers and benches and stuff like that. Really generic stuff that kind of makes my stomach churn now that I've done this. But then when I was kind of surveying the land and kind of marking it all out, I realized that there's another path back there that I've never seen before, is not marked, and is really not maintained that well. So I decided that would be a way better focus for the project than a trail that's already paved and stuff like that.
Anybody else? Questions?
Project is fantastic. I think it looks great. I look forward to seeing it in person.
Thanks.
How long did it take start to finish in terms of planning, permitting, kind of how many months was it?
Well, I've just kind of been taking advice and doing just research here and there since August of last year.
Wow.
And then around February, April, I decided to really get to focus on work, mostly because my 18th birthday was coming up and I really can't get my Eagle badge after my 18th birthday. So I really focused in on that. I got the proposal in around, I think, April 8th. It got approved, and that's when I could start planning, collecting funds, and get to work on this.
Excellent. What was either the biggest surprise or the biggest challenge in the process?
One of the biggest challenges with Mother Nature. I had to cancel or postpone it a couple times because it was just raining. I think basically every weekend in May was raining. You guys might remember that. But also, I miscalculated the amount of gravel I was gonna need. So I had to go to Lowe's and get a couple more bags of gravel to fill the trail.
I'll just share, my husband is decades older than you, but also an Eagle Scout, and that honor still comes up in job interviews. So it's definitely a very proud accomplishment, so congratulations.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Awesome job. Good job, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll let you know when we need another path done.
All right.
Alright, we are passing, it's on the agenda, but we're passing over the facilities update. Rob Quinn couldn't make it, so we had to reschedule, and that's gonna be for one of our next,
The next June meeting, I
Next
think,
June
the
meeting.
21st.
So we'll pass that. Next on the agenda will be 2018-19 Handbook and School Improvement Plan. Stacy Middle School. Come on up, Nancy. Special guest, John Newman.
Special guest John Newman.
John, how are you today?
I'm good,
Good.
thank you. I don't know if you recognize John. He was one of the leads in our play this spring. He's a very talented young man. Well, thanks for having us this evening. I'm going to review the school improvement plan with you, and John's going to do the handbook with you. Okay, so I'll go first. Before I do, I just want to take just 1 minute to thank all the faculty, staff, custodians, cafeteria, our school council, past school council members. Christopher really spent a lot of time with us at Stacy, the PTO, parents and guardians, the facilities department, technology department. Everybody has just been so wonderful in terms of collaborating and moving together as a team to improve what we're doing as a school. It's not often you get to publicly thank somebody, so I really, really feel like I need to say thank you to all the people I get to work with every day, especially the students. So if you look at our school improvement plan, it is a 3-year improvement plan that we established last year, so we've just completed year 1. And much of what we did was in response to survey data from the Metro West as well as Castle surveys that we received, and it really identified some issues that we felt like as a school community we needed to improve upon in the area of social emotional learning. So supporting one of the 4 tenets from the focus points of the district's strategic plan, we really decided to hone the 3-year plan on social emotional learning, okay? So probably one of the biggest things that we did that really has come to fruition at the close of year 1 is implement a research-based program called Second Step. And we feel like we did that in 6 different ways. Okay, so the first way was obviously introducing it to our faculty, and that was in a video form. We also are very lucky to have Dr. Bradica, who really skill set or wheelhouse is this type of stuff. So she reviewed with the faculty as well as our guidance counselors and our SISP providers. Additionally to that, there was an online training component for all teams because we were lucky enough to secure the newly developed Second Step curriculum that just came out in the fall online so all teachers can access it. The second point was we held 5 grade level assembly programs, or I would say more like workshops, over the course of the year. And each grade level during those workshops were split into 3. One was held in the media center, one was held in the auditorium, and one was held in the cafeteria. And each was facilitated by a guidance counselor and one of our SISP providers. The third way was for making the online Second Step program available for all of our teachers to be able to access and implement during our social enrichment period, which happens once every 6 days in a school cycle. The fourth way, which I think certainly was, one of the more stellar things that we saw come out of this whole project in year 1, was the interdisciplinary project that took place between our grade 8 art students and our grade 8 music students. This resulted in peer education that was quite stellar, just in my opinion. 3 grade level assembly programs were held by the students, and they utilized the forum of Muppets for Social Justice. So in a nutshell, the grade 8 art classes made all of the puppets, hand puppets, and the grade 8 music classrooms created the skits, created the music to align with the skits, and then that in turn performed those skits in front of grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8, which is not an easy thing to do, to get up in front of your peers and be judged, as John knows very, very well. The 5th way we did this was the PTO supporting our SEL, and I have to our PTO is just so wonderful and supportive. They implemented a purchase of books for each grade level to support the theme of empathy and communication. So those books were Mockingbird in grade 6, grade 7 was Counting by Sevens, and grade 8 was Challenge Deep. In addition to that, they offered a couple more copies of The Giver to balance off classroom sets. And those books were recommended in terms of supporting the concept of empathy in the classroom. Lastly, teachers are embedding the core competencies of social emotional learning, which is coming from CASEL, which is a really big social emotional learning organization, and also supported by the Department of Education. And the teachers are working really diligently to embed actual concepts and themes that we're going to be hitting over the next 3 years within those actual curriculum maps. And those are, in terms of where we are in terms of progress, are being submitted to the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. So in terms of data points, in the beginning, when we started talking about what we're going to do with the SEL and second step, we ended up meeting as a group, the SISP providers and administration, and they came up with a pre-post kind of test evaluation in terms of us measuring if we did what we said we were going to do. And we're really pleased to announce that over 80% of the students demonstrated growth in their ability to identify the theme of empathy and communication in real life situations, as measured by the pre-post tests. So for example, in grade 6, 62.6 students were able to do a pretty good job identifying what those themes were, and on the post assessment, on average, 71.6 was the result, okay? And then you go to 7th grade, pre was 71, post was 79.6, and in 8th grade, 70, and then to 81%. So resulting in 80% of the students showing improvement, and that's what we wanted to see, improvement, not perfection, improvement. It's really interesting to see today. Yesterday actually was one of the assembly programs, and you're seeing 6th grade, how they react to the theme and the discussion, 7th grade and 8th grade. Just developmentally, you could see how much 8th grade, maybe John will chit-chat about that with you, was able to have maybe more free flow of conversation because of the maturity level. So 6. So it's definitely a process, and I think that is going to continue to help kids grow and understand as they begin to develop themselves socially, okay? So that was really good stuff, and that's posted up on the website on our handbook. You'll see the pre-test results up there that people can access, and if everything gets approved because of the changes that we made, the post-test will be put up there so the community can also access what I just reviewed, okay? So again, when we talk about what I thought was the greatest thing, a lot of what we're trying to do as a community in our school is to transfer learning. Students learn information, and what do they do with it? Rather than just regurgitate it, what can you do with it in terms of transferring it into a real world situation? That's why I was so pleased to see what they were able to do with the Muppets for Social Justice. And more important than that was the reaction that the kids had after they were done. They were so supportive. It was just very, very nice to watch. So I just want to give kudos to the art teachers and as well as Mrs. Wilson for working collaboratively over the entire year to do that. It was an arduous process trying to get everybody on the same page, but it ended up with something really wonderful. Those results also are available online. If you press the links once they go up after tonight, you'll be able to see all of that, samples of the pictures. You'll be able to see the script as well that was used. Okay. In addition to that performance, the grade 8 music students kind of voted to see which ones they would pick to move forward. It was more of a condensed version of it, and they performed that for parents during the grade 8 music concert on May 16th. So parents could see it if they chose as well. In addition to that, I'm going to give you some more props, Johnny. Finian's Rainbow was selected purposely by the music department, Mrs. Wilson. I think I might have been one of the only people who actually knew what that play was. It's an old play, but it really supported the whole notion of empathy and communication and immigration and accepting people for differences. So it was very well timed and very well received by the community. Some of the other accomplishments we had as a school council is we implemented 2 huge welcome signs displaying 14 languages that say welcome in the main entry points of the 66 School Street entrance at Stacy Middle School. In terms of professional development, we did talk a lot about that in our school improvement plan, Understand It 4. And our goal as a community within Stacy Middle School is we have so many brilliant people, so many talented people. We're trying to harness that talent and share it across campus. So there have been 5 committees that will be, I would say, completed in place by the fall of next school year. One of those committees is actually a professional development in-house committee, trying to come up with a sensible way to implement best practicing and sharing of best practicing, so people can utilize data that we collect, identify where the area of need is, and then identify those people who have a skill set in that and be able to share it with their peers. So that was put into place. You start having a template, a sketch out of that. And just on the most recent early release day, May 25th, we did have our first implementation of that. And it was, I would say, 7 workshops were offered over a 2-hour period. They were 1 hour apiece, so teachers got to sign up for the ones they wanted to. So, for example, we had Nearpod and Ed Puzzle by Megan Burke and Elizabeth Warren, Google Read and Write by Asa McCrory, Peer Deck by Terry Moore, Using Tech to Quickly and Easily Identify Students in Need, Alyssa Holland and Rachel Usher, Introduction to Google Forms for Assessment by Christian Basha, Third-Party Sites, Flubaroo, Quizlet, Quizlet Live, Quizzes, Playposit, Capture Videos and Music YouTube by Paul Peliquin, and review the whole Google site subject, Tales to Go, Kahoot, and Read and Write by Stephen Weber. And lastly, Google for the advanced users, Learning and Sharing What You Know with Peers was conducted by Joe Strazula. So I wanted to thank those people. They came forward to do the pilot, and it was received very, very nicely. When we talk about the changes that we're asking for you to consider this evening, the largest ones revolve around the social emotional learning. And the only change in that, in terms of that, is when we first started this initiative, we had hard copy second step programming that was purchased last April. And over the summer, the company flip-flopped and updated and went online programming, which meant they changed all the themes. So I was like, oh, good golly, Miss Smalley. So we were lucky enough to be able to purchase those materials so we can stay up to date. So we still have the hardbinder resources for teachers to use. However, they went from 5 themes to 4 units. So what I wanted to do is make sure I'm aligned with what is happening online with the teachers during the S period, as well as what we're doing during the 5 assembly programs that will keep happening year after year. So I do ask that you take a look at that and consider accepting it. It's just me taking the old themes, putting in the new themes, and making sure they align with the 5 competencies that CASEL as well as the DESE is promoting under social emotional learning. Okay. The other big change was NEASC. I'm asking to remove everything related to NEASC, as the NEASC accreditation process is not being supported from grade 8 and below. It's just happening up at the Milford High School. So I'm just asking to remove that out of the existing plan. And then the last thing is simply just, we always had the district goals listed, and now that we have 4 strategic focus points, I'm putting those in and taking out just to support the Milford Public Schools plan from the central office. Okay? And that's about it. We have lots of wonderful things happening, but for purposes of time, I'm going to pass the mic over to John. If you have any questions, certainly John and I can answer them once he's complete.
So when we're going to change in the handbook, we're going to change in the cover page, we're going to change Don Craig, the assistant principal, to Dr. Nadine Clifford. In regards to the accreditation statement, we're going to remove a section, the NEASC accreditation no longer applicable. In regards to MPS non-discrimination statement, added an addition of new caveat on discrimination, gender identity, etc., and linked to policy in full. In regards to the contract regarding use of the network, this section was replaced with the new policy amended on November 17th. The new policy was replaced the old policy. In regards to the agenda, it was removed because agendas will no longer be used because of the implementation of Chromebooks. In regarding to emergency information form, the deleted direct phone number for guidance department due to a new phone system. The changed number is 508-478-1180. Breakfast. Any student who qualifies for free or reduced lunch are also able to receive breakfast at no cost or reduced cost. The no school notice is added to FM 101.3 and linked to policy in full. In regards to academic recognition, new section will be inserted. All middle school students are eligible to be on the principal's list or honorable mention list. Their purpose is to recognize academic achievement. To attain the principal's list, the following criteria must be met. Students must attain at least a 90 in all subject areas, including special subjects. Number 2, students must maintain a 1 or 2 in conduct and effort during the marking period in any subject, including special subjects. To attain an honorable mention, the following criteria must be met. Number 1, students must maintain at least an 85 in all subject areas, including special subjects. Number 2, students must maintain a 1 or 2 in conduct or effort during the marking period in any subject, including special subjects. On page 28 in the family portal, they removed C. Lucchini at Milford MA, and it was changed to helpdesk at milfordma.com. On pages 28 through 30, regarding homework guidelines, the original section was removed, replaced with new guidelines received on May 13, 2018 from Mr. Consigli. On page 53, regarding passports, lost passports must be immediately reported to the office, is now changed to lost passports must be immediately reported to their grade level assistant principal. On page number 54, regarding school IDs, there was a removed section and is no longer applicable. And finally on page 54, regarding field trips, the removed line, no student will be denied the opportunity to attend a field trip due to financial situations, is added for the family in regards to setting up a payment plan. Thank you.
I'll open up to the committee if anyone has any questions for these guys. Joe?
So, nice job, John. I did have a question. You mentioned the agenda and that the agenda is going to be removed in lieu of the Chromebooks. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure. We talked about that. The agendas are a very costly item, and the PTO funds that year after year. With the addition with the one-on-one Chromebooks, the students have the ability to build their agenda right into their Chromebook. So it was decided that we would remove the cost and just move forward with students using the Chromebook as their agenda. They can type in all of their calendars and things to do list.
And have students been trained on that functionality?
No, but we can certainly look into that. Not at this point. That's something that we could do during the S period, the social period.
And from a parent perspective,
Mm-hmm.
how do parents get access to that?
That was a recommendation that came from the PTO in terms of using the Chromebook. Do you have other feelings that you would like us to consider? It wasn't budgeted for, so I just would need to know, oh my goodness, right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we just rolled out the Chromebooks this year, and I know there's been an adjustment. There's always been an adjustment period. We roll something new like that, right? But one of the challenges I think parents are facing is the lack of transparency with the Chromebook that you had previously when kids were bringing books home and an agenda home. So parents aren't going to have as much insight into what the student's day looks like, what their homework looks like. So I think if we're going to move in that direction, we got to provide parents with some additional access so they know, okay, this is due on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And they can
So I think we can work with, I think both Nancy and Josh and Dr. Joseph to kind of figure out maybe there's some ways to kind of, and I'm not sure what the answer is right off, but I know there's a lot of solutions or potential solutions that where access could be provided, or we could figure out a way to get access to the kids' assignment book or some kind of shared calendar with the student and the parent might be a potential solution too.
Yeah. And maybe during maybe we use the ASE period to teach kids proper organizational skills, because that's something that's certainly lacking. I know we're going to address that through the Hawk University, but I think that's something that should be embedded into the curriculum itself. So if we're going to be moving this direction using Chromebooks more, I think we need to teach students how to use them effectively on a day-to-day
But the parent
basis.
piece is a good point, because there's not that ability to open up the agenda and just check it really quickly. But I think there's probably a number of solutions that are out there that are kind of student responsibility driven and can be reinforced both at the middle school and potentially the high school.
Yeah, you know, I'm really glad you said that about embedding training on. You're talking about the executive functioning skills that a lot of kids will struggle with. A lot of adults struggle with that. Grade 8 is really doing something neat next year in terms of summer reading. They're having the students read A Highly Effective Teens, the Stephen Covey book, but for teens, and they're going to be utilizing that throughout the year as well. So just to piggyback off of that.
Maybe just to add to that a little bit, I think, Nancy, to the extent it could be standardized, that would be extremely helpful. And so I don't want to force teachers to use one way, but as a parent, if it's in 6 different places, I think it's a lot harder versus this is the one place you go to look. And so if there's
for agenda.
Exactly, yeah, specifically.
See,
so.
I would see that as almost a student. It would be consistent with what the students are using, so it wouldn't even be maybe. And again, I don't want to answer and say definitively, but
Okay.
I would see it as like the students would fill it in, somehow would give parent access to whatever that format was, whether it's a Google Calendar or something else.
I'm just thinking if science uses a Google Doc and math uses a I'm just
No, I'm saying that could still happen, but
Okay.
the place where the student puts the assignments
Got it.
would be uniform.
okay, great. Yeah, I think that would be really
And it's
helpful.
interesting, a lot
Selfishly.
of kids didn't use the agendas. Some kids really used the agendas, a lot of kids didn't use the agendas. So there was that kind of thing happening
Sure.
as well, you know.
Yeah, and to go back to that executive function, this is something that I brought up at that last meeting to Dr. Joseph. So, and I was looking, so it's a Google Classroom. So I get a Google Classroom email every day from only a couple of my son's teachers. So there is a system in place. Obviously, it looks like we need to expand upon that. It is helpful for me from certain subject matters. Also, tying it into X2. I know certain long-term projects or projects that are graded through X2 can also be viewed through that portal. So I think it's just a matter of tying in the Chromebooks, tying in Google Classrooms, and tying in X2. So I think the foundation's there, but it certainly let's work and kind of put some plans in place to kind of give that information and make it accessible to the parents. Because certainly my children in 6th grade and 8th grade are all on the Chromebooks, and they're not using those agendas. So I can certainly see the benefit of getting rid of the agendas. They're blank every night, but I can go in and find their homework and other means. So I think we just need to make sure that it's collective across, the entire middle school and across, every teacher. So every teacher has the ability to post the homework assignments that parents are able to view.
All around Chromebooks.
So.
Laura?
Yeah, so I was just gonna kind of say what Chris just said was that through Google Classroom, if everyone's using Classroom and the parents are invited to that, then when they see the assignments being posted, those will pop up on their individual calendars, and they can add those to their own calendars. So I think as long as we're all using the same system and the parents are trained on how to use Google Classroom, I think that they can access the information for the assignments that way.
Sorry.
I just had another Chromebook question. Can I ask you, John? So when you go class to class, like, are you physically carrying the Chromebook, like, with your notebook and books? Like, is that how it goes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you have it on top of your books, or if you
Got
don't
it.
have it, you have like a trapper keeper,
Perfect.
which you put it in.
I think it's going to help reduce down the weight of the school bag, because you'd be amazed at how heavy the school bag is. I'm sure John can speak to that.
Yeah.
When you have everything that you have, and then add on the Chromebook, I think anything that we can do to reduce the amount of stuff that kids are carrying from classroom to classroom will be very beneficial.
A lot of my teachers just instead of using the books now, they just download the books as PDFs and they put it on Google Classroom for us to use.
Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, it's just a clarifying question. So the agenda is really the student's responsibility, right? The student goes in and they enter their assignment. So it is and then the teachers, some teachers will use, will send an email out. Other teachers will post something on their Google page for the assignment. So is the intent then to standardize that piece of it as well? So not only will students use Google Classroom to mark their assignments, but the teachers will post all the assignments out there as opposed to using these other.
Well, based on what everyone's saying, I think we need to do some work on making sure it's all standardized. Everyone uses it differently. I know how I use my programming is differently than how maybe Dr. McIntyre uses his programming. So we can talk about that. We chit-chatted about this across administration to central office regarding what we were gonna do with the agendas. So, because we're trying to support the Google, so certainly, yeah, my Google, we certainly can look at it. I appreciate what the ladies have said about standardizing it, maybe using the Google Classroom. A lot of teachers are using Google Classroom, and those workshops were being held May 25th within our school, so teachers will get better at it. So I think if we have a plan in place, we all can try to do that. My hope would be to kind of align the secondary schools. Middle school is considered a secondary school, so the kids, everyone's kind of doing the same thing, so it flows from 6 to 12. So I think that we can talk with
Yeah, and if I
central
could
office.
jump in, one of the things to remember too is that we're building the plan as it's taking off to some extent, and this is the first year that every teacher and every student has had Chromebooks at Stacy Middle School, and I think each ensuing year, I think we're going to see efficiency and things improve as far as communication and standardization. And I lost my train of thought.
We have to make it parent friendly as well as student friendly for access.
Absolutely. But
And just to build off that, Kevin, if we're used to it a certain way, it's just helpful to know that that's going to change, and this is the new expectation, maybe.
yeah, and I think we're going to get there eventually. I don't know if next year it's going to be across the board yet, but I think within a couple of years, I think it's going to be across the board because again, I think Nancy was alluding to, everybody's skill set is different. Students, parents, educators. And we're kind of getting everybody up to speed as we're rolling out the devices. And the one great thing about a broad rollout is everybody has access. The downside to that is everybody has access. But I think we'll get there.
But I'm hearing it's something we can certainly focus on. I mean, a lot of teachers use the Google Classroom, and if a parent's invited into that, they get to see.
Good.
It's on my to-do. I have it to-do here.
Nancy, maybe just a little elaboration on the improvement plan in terms of second step. You mentioned it being a 3-year plan.
Yep.
I think what you've done this year is fabulous. Is the second and third year sort of reiteration of what was done in year 1?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's just picking up the next theme.
Got it. Okay.
So from year after year, if you look at it, the themes are broken down, split up over the year and over the years, because you can't do it all at once. It would be too arduous for us to jam it all in at once. So that's the plan. And then after 3 years, we start recreating a new plan, and hopefully that's part of the culture. And then we'll look, say, hey, is this okay? For example, today we met with the SISP providers and started talking about how do we want to roll out next year.
Okay.
What was good? What do you want to improve upon? What do you want to change? What do you want to keep? So those conversations are starting to happen.
And you highlighted some key things that you did, like the puppet thing sounds fantastic. Is it also embedded in core subjects? Is that also
The
part of the
SEL?
curriculum? Just the overall second step, is there components of it that sort of...
Not technically.
Okay.
However, the theme words are
Got it.
to be embedded within the actual UBD curriculum
Okay.
mapping. For example, if you were to go into someone's room and you'll see every day at Stacy Middle School, someone's supposed to have their target objective posted. So
Mhm.
if you walked in, I walked in, anyone walked in, okay, I know what you need to accomplish today. So within that kind of framework, how are we going to embed social emotional learning, not just the academic piece, but the social piece, and they're trying to tie it in within the curriculum that they're doing. Whether it's like John and I, if we did a turn and talk, that's implementing communication. Do you know what I mean? So they're doing things like that.
Great,
okay?
thank you.
You're very welcome. That was a great question.
And if I could jump in, Nancy, and I may have missed it as well, is they did some data collection for 6th grade and kind of a pre and a post test around empathy and communication. Each of the 3 teams increased pretty dramatically in their understanding and conceptual understanding of empathy and how to implement good communication strategies. So we're seeing kind of like the data is showing that the second step is having a positive impact.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
those are real great questions. So, anybody else? Any concerns you want us to address, or?
Sure, I have one other question,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
The principals and the honorable mention, is that new?
That is something that went to the wayside for a little while with the transition program that happened between Middle School
Got it.
East and Stacy Middle School. That was a functional program that always took place at Middle School East.
Got it.
There were so many moving parts implementing every single 8th grade program into Stacy Middle School last year, that this was the phase-in for this year.
And are those requirements the same as what the high school requires?
I
high
didn't
honors
align
or-
to the high school or anything like that because it's not high honors or this. We just do it as principals list and honorable mention, so I didn't match up against the high school. A lot of the intent with that is to give students who want to achieve an opportunity of something to strive for. In addition, unfortunately, we're finding that a lot of students are taking a look at specials in a way that isn't as good as it should be. So we want to encourage students to make sure they understand the importance of the specialist classes as well. For example, I'm biased, but health is our greatest wealth. And you don't worry about it until you don't have it anymore. So we're trying to make sure everything, music, health, art, physical education, STEAM, music, all of those things are very, very important when we start talking about educating the whole child. And part of the middle school model is to educate the whole child, and we're trying to maintain that so everyone has an understanding of lots of things around them. And then as they get older, they start saying, hey, you know what? Really, music isn't for me, or oh my gosh, I love music, or I really love STEAM because I want to explore, and then they come up here and start maybe tailoring what they want to spend more time focusing on. Okay, so there's twofold on that: giving kids who want to strive for something to strive for, and then also encouraging students, hey, every subject is important, not just your content. Okay. Anything else?
Maybe just.
No, Jen, go.
No, I'm
go
sorry
ahead.
because I came in late.
No,
I was just going to maybe add to that, and maybe it's more a comment for our marketing subcommittee, but just displaying that, so to the extent that children are achieving those honorable mentions, et cetera, just to be creating visibility around
I love
it,
that
just to
you're saying
publicize
that.
it.
Every year with every newsletter that goes out, we display the AOK awards and the PACE awards that students earn. And following suit to when my friend Craig used to be at Middle School East, and then when I went down there for 2 years, that is actually displayed in the paper.
Great.
Like
Thanks.
the newspaper.
Great,
okay.
thanks.
And maybe we can roll it on the cable too.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Let's
Sorry,
do
Jen.
it. Awesome. Jen?
You might have already talked about this, so
It's
I
okay.
apologize if you have, but I just wanted to comment on the social emotional because I think that's probably the most important thing that's happening at your school or any of our schools right now, given everything that's happening. And I was just wondering, so you're doing all these things for kids, and do you feel like, at middle school, I always think about people looking at content, and I think that's a hard shift to make at the secondary level when people are so content driven. Are you finding that you have enough resources for the staff in terms of really getting their buy-in? Like the whole thing about the books that all respond to empathy. I think that's one of the best things that you could have done in terms of making a focus for summer reading. Are you finding enough support with your faculty that they're owning it?
I really like that you asked that question because the answer to that is yes. Now, initially you're like, ugh, I'm not a health teacher, and this kind of thing, but what's happening is that the SISP providers are becoming the leaders in this area, and then they're branching out and going to help. So, for example, Meredith Pertel, I'm really lucky to have her. She's dual licensed, adjustment counselor and guidance counselor. She went to every team and trained them on how to do the second step online component, okay? So that kind of stuff is working out pretty well. If anyone has any questions, they're going to the SISP providers. So it's like anything, a pilot this year, our data was really good. We were actually, we didn't think we were going to get such good data. We're like, yay us. But next year will be even better, And then how are we going to roll it out in the social period? So the academic and social period. Do you mind if I ask John to comment on that? He's living it.
Sure.
John, do you want to comment on the?
John might mind.
He looks like in his head he's saying, thank you for that question.
You're welcome,
Do you want
John.
to comment on the, how you've been going to the grade level assemblies that they do, and we talked about what happened with Dr. Braddock yesterday,
Yeah.
and how you feel about what goes on during the S period.
In second step, they divided the grade in half, and so you're with your classmates, and so sometimes you feel more comfortable with your classmates most of the time because you've been with them for most of the year, so you feel like you can talk to them. And so a lot of the program that we do is a lot of talking driven. It's not just oh, here's a slideshow, let's just read the slideshow and watch it, and then the teacher will say something. It's more of that the administrator or the guidance counselor or the teacher says something, and they'll turn and talk to your peers, and then you get to talk with your friends. So it's more it's very engaging and fun because you learn a bit more from it because you're not just listening to someone talk to you and then just almost falling asleep because it's kind of boring and there's nothing engaging with it. And so
That's hypothetical because I've never had an experience.
and so it's really fun, and then it teaches you a lot about how to manage. One time we learned how to manage our time better, and one time we learned about what, so a lot of things in middle school are about like popularity, and we learned about the different definitions of popularity and what other kids think that are what the popularity means, and we got to hear a lot about that, and it was really cool because you got to see like you maybe had a definition of popularity in your mind, but then another kid would have a totally different like perspective, and it was just it was weird, but it was cool because you got to like see the insight of it all, and then you got to take some of that facts and information back to you and process that through your mind and be like, oh, well, maybe that really isn't what popularity is. And then so it basically helps you through school, and it basically makes it so you can be a better student and a better friend and a better person in all real life, because it helps you with stuff in school, and it helps you with other stuff outside of school. So like if you saw someone at, like the common example is if you see someone at recess with no one to play with, you go over and talk to them. But maybe instead of just you going over with them, this program's basically said like maybe you bring like your friends over and talk to them. So it's not just like, hey, I'm just gonna go over. It's more like I'll bring my friends over and see if they want to be your friend too. So it's broadened our mind and our memory and everything that we learned about, because it's basically just said that there's a lot of basicness in students sometimes, and that this program has basically said, well, here's a fun way and here's an interesting way that you can make a student be better and everything else. So it's done a lot of good things.
That was a great answer for someone who looked like they had their deer in the headlights
Yeah.
a couple seconds
Yeah.
ago.
That's great, and clearly you're not falling asleep in class, so thank you, John.
And the S period also during, you know, it's not just coming into those 3 areas. Those are just 5 of the scheduled lessons that are based off of second steps. And they can do different types of things in the S period. So every team's also asked to do one civic thing for somebody else. And they also have that happen during that period too. Okay.
I know my cluster, so every cluster had to do something, and my cluster decided, since Puerto Rico was hit by the hurricane, we did this, we did a penny war, and so it was actually really confusing, because everyone got confused, because they were like, because some kids thought the silver was good, and then some kids thought the pennies were good, but it was really weird. But then we figured it out, and so it was basically whoever got the most pennies and the least amount of silver won. And so it was like very competitive. Like some homerooms kept getting mad at each other, and I know my homeroom, 94th in Euro Marshall, and Mr. Zaccarino, 92, we declared war on each other. So there was every day there was like a huge group of his kids coming in. There was a huge group of our kids going into his room, and so it was really fun because there was competitiveness to it, and who doesn't like a fun competitive game, especially middle schoolers in my grade, because we're very competitive. And so it was very fun, and it was all for a good cause, which was even better because it helped people in Puerto Rico.
So also, is anyone picking up on the word from the theme on this? What he's talking about is empathy. Okay, so, and then the kids actually were communicating across homerooms and classrooms and in a fun way, but also it was about something really good. So that was just a different way to do empathy and communication. So good stuff. Yeah, this is why we like to be teachers, right? You see this, and I see his mom beaming behind me through my peripheral vision. So you did a really great job, John. Does anyone have any other questions for us? It's not perfect. If we had someone else in here, they might be like, oh, John, I disagree. I didn't like it at all. But when you talk about overall, John was able to, I didn't model that with him today, okay? We just worked on this little thing he went on. That's from his own viewpoint. So even if you help one student, that one student is going to go and help somebody else, and you'll have that kind of waterfall effect. So the last thing is, based on all of this stuff that we're seeing in the marketing committee that we've been working very diligently on all year with central office and community, we're going to try to do a new program for 6th graders coming in. And there's going to be probably 33 to 37 7th graders notified as soon as I get through farewell evening semi-formal dance tomorrow night about, hey, look at, I'd like to train you this summer to work with homeroom, 6th grade homeroom. So 2 8th graders are going to be aligned with a 6th grade homeroom, and they're in charge of them all year. And they're also going to be teaching them, and they're going to be part of the summer orientation program. And the orientation program is going to be aligned to the 4 focus points of the strategic plan. Growth-focused instruction, social-emotional learning, all the other ones. And then we're going to see how that goes. Why? Because of the reactions that we're seeing when peers get up, even at the variety show, the kids were so, I'm going to have to say, loving towards the peers. One girl got nervous and froze, and everyone stood up and started, and I was like, oh, I could cry, right? And it's just, kids are really, like you heard the boy before, Patrick before, with what he did with the pathway. Students are really, really capable of doing lots of things if we let them. So we're going to give that a try with the summer orientation program. Okay, so, and that, it's all going off, building off the SEL. Those themes will be built into that training as well. And the 33 to 37 are going to get a mini mediation training from me this summer. It'll be the day before the orientation program. And hopefully my new 6th grade guidance counselor will help with that. She's a long-term sub, but she does a lot of that programming in summer camp. So I'm hoping she'll be able to swing in and help me out with that, because it's a little bit of an arduous journey alone. So, alrighty, that's it. Any other questions? I know you had a lot of questions. I hope we answered them all. And if there's anything else you want to know, I would like to formally invite you, if you'd like, if you're not too busy, although I know you are so busy, tomorrow night at 7, if you drive by 66 School Street, you are going to see a wonderful sight of excited 8th graders doing a semi-formal farewell evening. I'm really kind of excited. So many 8th graders signed up this year, and even more happily to me is we have like 160 or 70 parents who signed up to just come in and watch the memory walk. So I'm like, this is wonderful. So, and it's not going to rain like it did last year. So if you want to drive by or you want to come in and take a peek, it's from 7 to 9:30. And obviously you'll all be invited to the step-up ceremony on June 22nd. Field day, June 12th. Anything you want to play in, you can come and be part of. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
What we have to do is to take a vote. So we need to vote on the handbook and school improvement plan. Can I get a motion? Motion by Chris, second by Laura. All in favor?
Thank
Unanimous?
you.
Thank
And
you
I
very
promise
much,
I'll
Nancy.
take a look on the consistency and uniformity of how we're going to use the agendas and make that information applicable to parents as well as students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John.
Can we all say,
job,
good
John.
job, John?
Good job, John.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Jane, thank you for being quiet during this meeting. I think we all know your voice.
That is.
It was.
That took restraint.
All right, that was awesome. Next on the agenda is report superintendent of schools. Take it away, doctor.
All right, so I'm going to be pretty brief.
Ready?
I just wanted to update the committee and the public on kind of our administrative hiring process. We've had a couple articles in the Milford Daily News recently of the 2 new assistant principals. So we've successfully completed those searches for Milford High School and Stacy Middle School. Christine Ravisi Weinstein has been named to the position at Milford High School. She currently serves as a faculty member in the science department at Attleboro High School, where she's the department head, and she's been there for 15 years. She has a bachelor's degree from UMass Amherst, and her master's degree in education is from Harvard University. And she's also done postgraduate coursework at Bridgewater State University. Dr. Nadine Clifford is our new assistant principal at Stacy Middle School. Dr. Clifford currently serves as the associate principal at the Walker School in Needham, Massachusetts, and that's a private special education residential and day school for children in grades pre-K through 8. She has held this position for the past 4 years, and prior to that worked in the Uxbridge Public Schools for 12 years in various capacities, including special education teacher, literacy instructor, and 21st century skills instructor. She earned her bachelor's degree from Bay Path University, master's degree in educational leadership from Bridgewater State, and her doctorate from Northeastern University with a focus on educational leadership. Additionally, we are beginning the interviews for the SEL director this coming Tuesday. So we've completed the screening process and we've identified semifinalists. And the Woodland Elementary assistant principal position has been posted, and we'll talk about that process shortly. And that's what I have.
Is that it? Anybody have any questions or anything? Can I just skip over to real quick? Is there any way we can put on the future agenda to have those two come in?
Absolutely.
Just to introduce. I didn't have the chance to go to any of these screenings or interviews too, so it'd be nice to meet them. Either next couple meetings or any time before the school year.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get them in maybe over the summer or
Not-
possibly the first meeting in the fall.
It's not pressing, but it'd be
Yep.
nice to
Yeah,
just
absolutely. We can
introduce
definitely do
themselves.
They've been talking about wanting to meet you guys since they got on board. So
Sure, I'm sure they have.
we're very excited.
Thank you, Kevin.
Especially Jim.
Next on the agenda,
Sorry.
report of assistant superintendent curriculum. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, in front of you, you have the homework guidelines that I worked on with a lot of feedback from staff and administration. Just going to briefly go over it, and then I'll take any questions that you might have. You see at the top, this is draft 4. So I think it was either December or January, I put out an original document and I sent it to the entire staff. And the original document that I put together, I had feedback from Nancy and Seth, Tim, and Lisa. We kind of worked on it as an administrative staff. Then we sent it out to the staff. And I think when you think of homework, I can't really think of, I guess there is more controversial issues, but homework does seem to stir up a lot of strong feelings on both sides. So there was a lot of feedback, some positive, some not so much, but a lot of feedback. So I took all the feedback that I got, made another draft, sent it back out, got a lot more feedback, sent it out again, got a lot more feedback, and then kind of settled on this one. So it really has taken shape over, I don't know, probably the whole year, really. So for an overview, I broke the document into 5 different pieces. At the top, there's an overview of what the guidelines are and what the purpose is. And really it's to provide teachers, students, and families with clear expectations about homework and how it fits into a comprehensive learning plan. Additionally, I wanted this document not so much to be such a rigid document with clear boundaries, but more of a way for parents and teachers and administrators to kind of engage in a conversation about homework and what the purpose of homework is. So I'm hoping that this document continues to grow and change shape, and as teachers are having conversations about the types of assignments that they're giving and why they're giving them, I'm hoping that next year this will look a little different. So that's what I hope the purpose of this is. So moving on from the overview, I felt like, after getting feedback from a lot of different staff members, that the reading and literacy piece was a very important part of this. So I thought I needed to be clear about, so that parents and everybody understands that reading needs to happen every single day, whether you're reading to your child or children are reading on their own. It needs to happen every day. And in this section, I also say that it is, whether it's counted as part of the guidelines or not as part of the guidelines, I think it'll be different depending on the day, depending on teachers. And then the next section, kind of defining what homework is, that it's any assignment really that's either prepared, started, continued, or completed outside of classroom meeting time, and that it should extend, enrich, or enhance the learning experiences that are happening within the classroom. I also wanted teachers to know that, and parents to know that it's not mandatory to give homework assignments. So teachers shouldn't feel like, and parents shouldn't feel like that kids should have homework every single night, or that a teacher should be just giving an assignment to give an assignment. It should be connected to whatever's happening in class. And if whatever's happening in class doesn't need a homework assignment, then it doesn't need a homework assignment. So that I made sure that was clear in here too. On the back side, or the second page, really, just general guidelines. And again, I'm not saying that this is absolute 100% gonna be the gospel, but guidelines. So what we're aiming for at the K2 level is up to 3 days a week, not to exceed 10 to 20 minutes. At Woodland, or the 3 to 5 level, up to 4 days a week and not to exceed 20 to 40 minutes a night. And then at Stacy, up to 4 days a week and not to exceed 50 to 70. You see the stars there. Again, may or may not include the reading that kids need to be doing. So when you look at the frequency, I'm pretty clear there too that students should be reading or be read to every single day. So that obviously it's more than 3 days a week, right? And then being clear about what we're expecting from parents. So if it's not fitting within these parameters, then families should be reaching out to teachers and letting teachers know that, just so you know, it took my child 45 minutes to do an assignment that was supposed to take 10. So you may want to check on them, just so teachers have that feedback too, because a lot of times they don't know. But it's also important, I think, for parents to be checking on kids, because maybe it is a 10-minute assignment, but they have their phone next to them and the computer on, and they're supposed to be writing something, but guess what? I'm playing Fortnite on this and doing email on that, right? So, so that's important too. I think I outlined on the next paragraph down, there's an outline about long-term assignments, and yeah, they may be given over a weekend, but it shouldn't be given over one weekend. Maybe it's given at the beginning of the week and you have till next Monday to give it. So if a child chooses to wait until the weekend, yeah, you're gonna have an assignment over the weekend. Same with vacations. There shouldn't be assignments given over, like given on a Friday before vacation and it's due the Monday to come back. Perhaps it's given the Friday before that and kids know they have 2 weeks or 3 weeks to work on something. But it shouldn't, there really shouldn't be anything that you do on the Monday when you get back. And also talking about comprehensive state tests like access testing and MCAS testing, although it seems like those tests are becoming so frequent that we shouldn't give assignments because we feel like we're testing them every day anyways, unfortunately. But all right, so then next, books to be read over long courses over several weeks inclusive of vacation time. So again, we shouldn't be given a book and said, okay, read this for the vacation. Maybe it's over 3 weeks and the vacation's in the middle of there, except for summer reading, obviously. And then finally, the last part, which was grading homework, which again, strong feelings, a lot of strong feelings with grading of homework, and really the only school that grades and homework come into play is Stacy. And I said that homework should not be counted more than 10% of a student's overall grade, which is a shift for some people. Some people are up to 20 or 15, other people are down to 5, but I felt like 10% is a fair number to work with on that.
Craig, can you talk about why the other 90% is more curriculum based? Or do you not understand my question?
No. Sorry.
We really want to. What's your title?
I don't understand the question.
What we're trying to push for is really like a real focus on getting conceptual understanding happening in the classroom and not compliance-based tasks. And I think the more that our assessments are around, and the way we assess students overall, is around conceptual understanding as opposed to some compliance tasks. I think we're going to see kind of a clear picture of how a student is doing in a particular class or the set of classes. It was a bad question. I'm just teasing.
Understand it now.
So how do teachers measure that conceptual understanding?
So, well, that's a complex question. We could probably talk about it for 3 consecutive meetings. But I would say, when you just look at things like completion, like of homework, for example, like a kid either did it or he didn't do it. You don't know if the kid actually understood what he did or didn't do. Whereas if you give an assessment and the assessment is thoughtfully developed, you're gonna get a sense of, did the student understand this particular standard or not understand this particular standard, and where the misunderstandings lie. And that's really what we wanna get to. Cause if you hear, like, if you see a grade of A, B, C, or D in a math class, you don't know if the student understands and could apply a Pythagorean, like the Pythagorean theorem to a multi-step word problem. You probably couldn't answer that question. You could say, my child did very well because they got an A, my child didn't do so well because they got a D. But you probably couldn't answer the question, did they get these 10 key concepts that were part of this broader unit and understand them? And we want to kind of move in that direction.
Yeah, and the part I'm struggling with is how they measure that. So is it just based on individual conversations the teacher's having with the student to understand if they're...
Well, I think that's where like formative assessment comes in. You're kind of walking around and you're gaining that knowledge. But I think it's a combination of things. I think it's formatively assessing whether a student knows and is able to kind of, that's what I'm looking for, implement what they're learning. But you do that in a variety of ways. There's larger assessments, there's smaller assessments, and then just by walking around a class or using a technology tool to see like who got the question correct and who didn't get the question correct. The students that got the question correct can actually explain why they got the question correct. There's kind of a whole layer of things. But that's the direction we're trying to move in, is really to kind of push that conceptual understanding. As part of the reason why we moved to more of a standards-based report card system.
Right.
When we push that up. It's the same kind of thing.
Anybody have any questions, Mike?
Yeah, Craig, overall, I love the concept of the guideline, and I think this is very cohesive. I'm sure it took a lot of time because, to your point, it's a hot button item, and I'm sure there were a lot of feedback. Just the expectation, I think, is that this would go into all of the school handbooks and sort of.
Well, I wasn't clear
Okay.
about that, so sorry.
It's
Not
okay.
all the handbooks.
Well, okay. My
yeah.
rationale, I was going to ask, why'd you leave out high school?
I did leave out high school because I really think there's a lot of research out there about homework and the value of homework, but I think there's a clear distinction about high school and what high school needs to do and what they need to accomplish. And I think homework is definitely necessary at the high school, but where that line lies is kind of not so clear. You know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, somewhere in there. But I also think it's different for different kids. I think some kids can handle a lot more work on their own at a younger age. Other kids are scheduled out for every single day of the week, right? And there's just physically not enough time to do all the things that they want to do. So I guess that's the main reason why high school. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to put something like this on a kid that is on an AP track with 4 different AP classes. It's just impossible, I think.
So the thought is this would be in all of the elementary and middle
Yes.
school handbooks.
Yeah.
And is there any mention in the high school handbook currently of homework, or is that just left? I was just curious.
Nothing, not with guidelines.
Okay.
The kind of what Craig was saying though, the high school, your homework load is so driven by your schedule.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so there's really no way to, like Craig was saying, if you take 4 AP courses, your homework load is going to be significantly more than someone who does not take 4 AP courses.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Was there any conversation about doing homework during class time? We're trying to avoid that, right? We want class time focused on instruction as opposed to just doing.
Yeah, but I think I guess if it's happening during class, then it's not technically homework, right? Homework's at home,
Yeah.
right? So it's classwork. So
Unless the teacher calls it homework.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you
I don't
15
know.
minutes to do your homework. I mean, it's not kind of what's happening sometimes.
I don't want to say it's not, but I think either way it's practice, right? So if it's happening during class or if it's happening at home, we're practicing whatever the skills are. So if you can accomplish it in school, why not, right?
Unless you want to maximize that time effectively with the teacher.
Which I think I think that's where the classwork is better suited, or the homework, or whatever we're gonna call it, because the student could be working on it and the teacher can be circulating around and actually seeing whether or not the student understands it, as opposed to bringing it home. And guess what? Joey just snapped me a picture of his homework and sent it to me, and I just copied down everything he wrote, and I have no idea as a teacher whether or not Joey knows it. So I would prefer that they're doing it in class, so I could see exactly what everyone knows. And then I could clear up a misconception too, before the kid goes home. So.
But I think you're asking a completely different question. Than
To some extent, yeah.
It's less to do with, it's more, your question is more about the use of class time.
Right. But I understand where Craig's
Yeah,
going
no,
with that.
I think
yeah.
Craig's answer was right on point, but I'm just saying, I think your question was different than the homework discussion, just generally.
Right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just had a
Go
quick
ahead.
question too. And so first, thank you for putting all this together. And I know I've definitely been one who's been asking for it. So what do you think are the next steps in terms of rolling this out in schools? Because this is a piece of paper right now until
Yeah.
it really takes life in a school
Well,
building.
I think every teacher's aware of it. It's been out since at least December or January, and I sent it out to the entire staff multiple times. And I've talked to the administrators and the staff about it, is that my vision for this is to become really a focal point for a discussion around homework in a lot of different questions. What's the purpose of homework? How much are we giving? Why are we giving it? What kind of assignments are we giving? So that's what I'm hoping this does, and that's what I hope the next steps are in each school. I really don't want this to be top-down kind of a mandate. I want this more to be a just discussion starter.
Right. One more follow-up question on the access testing. So all kids don't take access, even
Right.
though we know we have large quantities that, and probably growing more
Right.
that do, because it's an EL test. So what would your thoughts be about during that period of time? Is no one to assign homework, or are
No.
they to be more thoughtful about students who are taking access,
Exactly.
that they have extended time or something like that?
Differentiated.
Okay.
So that, and access testing is a little different too, so, there's more of a one-to-one component also. There's a few days where it's standardized and we have mass kids taking it, but on other days, it's more, individualized, where I'm listening to somebody speak. So I think teachers can easily, work around that for kids.
I think just to follow up on Joe's point, I think sometimes it is semantics, and when a message comes home to a parent that, oh yeah, the teacher said they were done early and we finished everything. And so I think when you hear that message from your child that, oh, the teacher said that we were done, there was nothing left to do, so they gave us time to do our homework, I think is different than a teacher making a decision that I've taught the concept, and now I want you guys to do some independent practice, kind of to Kevin's point, while the teacher's here circulating, going around. And maybe with this, I think this gives teachers more flexibility, because this says you don't have to give homework. So maybe it is semantics, but if you take away the pressure on a teacher to say you have to give homework, maybe you choose not to give homework because you've chosen to assess something authentically in the last few minutes, or maybe you purposely choose to say, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to start this so I can see how you're doing and make sure that everyone walks out of here with a clear understanding before they go home, because in a lot of homes kids don't have help to support them. So sometimes it might just be the way it's framed and the way the message
That's a
goes
good
home
point.
to families.
That's a good point.
But I do appreciate the work on this and the focus. I think it will
Thank
help.
you.
Anybody else? Awesome. Thank you very much, Craig.
You're welcome.
All right, next on the agenda, report of Assistant Superintendent. Kathy? Excuse me.
The first warrant for the committee's approval is in the amount of $21,289.33.
We had a motion to approve. Motion by Jen, seconded by Jim.
Second warrant.
All in favor, I'm sorry. I had something in my eye. I apologize.
I heard the pause.
I'm sorry.
Second warrant is in the amount of $8,454.75.
We had a motion by Chris, seconded by Laura. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $12,793.24.
Motion by Joe, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $14,846.57.
The motion by Jen, seconded by Joe. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $21,092.39.
The motion by Jim, seconded by Laura. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $26,048.91.
Motion by Joe, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $351,511.41.
The motion by Jen, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $376,908.27.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Laura. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $102,663.85.
I have a motion by Chris, seconded by Joe. All in favor?
The next item on the agenda is professional development. The committee has a course reimbursement request in the amount of $4,815.90.
There's a motion by Jen, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
The next agenda item is the personnel list for all hires. No vote is required, it's for your information. We do have a request tonight from Mr. Kernan, the Woodland principal, who is requesting to have a Woodland student activity account. For full disclosure, we currently do have in our policy under student activity account a elementary level for the student account. It does have a max capacity of $5,000. However, this is a new ask, so I did want to bring it to school committee for your approval to give him the ability to, essentially what he would like to do is he has a few activities, and he finds it restricting. It's not meant for fundraising such as the PTO might do for the Woodland School. This is giving him access such as with the Animal Lovers Club. This year they got a $500 or a small mini grant. He would like to have access to put that into the account so he could write checks for that group if they need small items or if they want to have a little event. I did give Tim and his secretary access to our current student activity policy, which is very strict about maintaining the records so that they would get acclimated before their ask. And Tim felt confident that he would like to, again, make the ask knowing the policy was there. I think that about covers it. It is his request. If you do agree, I have it on the list, next policy subcommittee to make the add of Woodland to our student activity policy.
Can I just ask a question, Joe?
Yeah.
Kevin, I apologize if
Sure.
it says it in here. Is there a maximum amount that can go up to?
5,000
Okay,
for an elementary school.
Sorry, thank you.
Do I want to open this up for discussion, or we want to, Joe?
So today we have one at the high school level and we have one at Stacy.
Correct.
And then we have one that encompasses all the elementary schools, or we don't
No.
have any?
We don't have any. This would
Okay.
be a new ask.
Okay, and it remind me, of these accounts that are able to roll over year to year, or do they have to be spent each year?
No, these are the accounts that the principals have a checking account for and a savings account at a bank. The principals are solely responsible for the accounts. We have an auditor actually come in every other year to audit the activity.
Okay.
It's separate of what you would be signing off on each week.
Okay.
Where does most of the funds come from? Whatever they collect money from, whatever fundraising type,
Or if it's a mini
vending machines
grant,
per se?
no vending machine. Let's say if they had collecting pennies,
Okay.
so then he would have an activity that he would deposit the pennies into so that he could have a reward system or maybe an ice cream social. So it's very small.
Is that requiring like a,
Yes.
Yes.
can I get a motion to set up the student activity count for Woodland? Motion by Jen, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
Thank you for that support. And lastly, we have a request from Dr. Corey Masterson to travel for the following school year to Washington DC to attend the annual Early Childhood Conference. It's in November 2018, and in order to book her travel, she would like to have school committee's approval as early as possible.
That requires a vote. I'm in favor. Motion, Joe, seconded by Jim. All in favor? Sorry.
Let's do that every time.
I know, right?
Just make me motion.
I'll vote.
Cut one motion out of it.
Right.
Something in
Three
my
of us.
And finally, Mr. Chair, there is, I
Yes.
believe, a couple gifts.
Yes. We can vote on these at the end. There's only a couple of them. One of them is for Jackie's Boutique from Natalie and Valerie Tessassini, which consists of 4 prom dresses and some shoes, a pocketbook, and a jacket as well. Total value of $40. Thank you. And the next one I have is from Ryan and Allison Sullivan for the School Family Network in the amount of $25. Can I get a motion to accept these gifts? Motion by Chris, seconded by Laura. All in favor? All right, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is subcommittee.
One more quick, nice,
Yeah,
Kathy,
sure.
quick question. So you mentioned the vending machines, and that just reminded me of something. So, is the high school the only school that we have vending machines in, or do we end up putting any in at Woodland?
No, they're all out. We do not, the high school is the only building that has vending machines.
It is, okay.
I think when I said that, I was just going off of like random things like vending machines and or whatever. I didn't know if they had them down there.
Yeah, and I thought there was a space built in at Woodland by the gym for vending machines. That's why I asked. 'Cause I haven't been over there in a while, so I didn't know if they put any.
There's a
any
space,
in
but
there.
we're kind of using it for storage.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Subcommittee updates. Did we have any subcommittee updates?
No.
Mhm.
When's
Long
the
range.
who's meeting next? Does anybody
I
know?
think we had long range.
Long range, yeah.
Long range.
Yep.
You want to talk to that real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a quick meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we basically reviewed the NESDEC plan, connected it to the strategic plan, and kind of talked about next steps. And what we're really asking the committee to do is look at the options presented by NESDEC, talk about which options are most preferable, and most importantly, why those options are most preferable. And we'll really start to develop kind of a list of priorities and start to set the plan and the rationale for the plan. Set up anything else, Chris?
No, they get well, just taking NASDAQ and kind of talking through it as a group and
Yep.
figuring out a best laid plan for the future.
Yep. Chris?
Thank you. Next on the agenda, future agenda items. Good, Chris?
I guess just as we talk through and a lot with homework, and I know, and this is something that just came up, I guess, tonight as we're talking about homework. Do we need to bring Dr. Joseph in and talk a little bit more about this executive function? That's like Stacy Middle School per se. So if we're getting rid of the agendas and we're looking to go to Google Classrooms and the homework and how to track it and bringing parents involved, is this something that we need to talk to more about? To
Yeah,
have a
I
better
think, yeah, I
discussion
think we
and
can, I
have
think
Dr.
we can,
Joseph
yeah, I
in
think we
here
can bring him in.
and bring it in, if we're getting rid of the agendas in the fall, but I know, you discussed a plan that may take a couple years to implement, but that would be district-wide. I'm just concerned that grades 6, 7, 8, that I just wanna make sure that we hit the ground running.
Yep.
With, the ability for the students to track homework and for their parents to have access to track their children's homework.
Yep. I think we can do- I think we can do-
September 1st is coming fast.
Yeah, I think we can do two things. One thing I think we can do is have them kind of talk about what the plan is and what the support has been.
Mhm.
And I think two is we can talk about what additional support can we provide parents in terms of opportunities to understand how to use like Google Classroom, re-access the X2 parent portal, those types of things as well, because I think those types of refreshers would be good in September also,
And
in October.
obviously the staff too, just to
Yep,
make sure that
yep.
staff is well trained on
Yeah.
how to utilize those tools to be able to distribute out to both students and parents.
Yeah, let me see if I can get him in either the next meeting, although that agenda's looking pretty full, but maybe the July meeting.
Could that be something that could be a forum as well?
Yeah, I
At
could,
some point?
yeah, I could definitely see it. He's running a number of sessions in the next couple of weeks on just the, I wanna say and I'm gonna forget the title, but it's technology related to the Chromebooks, either collection or for the future distribution at the high school. And the actual title's escaping me right now.
This could also be a workshop at Parent University,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and where it's more like hands-on and everyone has
Mhm.
like a bring your own device.
Yep.
Anybody else have any future agendas? Old business? All right, and with that, there is no executive session today, so we
Correct.
can get motion for adjournment. Motion by Jim, seconded by Megan, all in favor? Thank you.